So, hi everyone. If you've watched my last couple videos, you'll notice it's usually just me and then clips of movies so I don't have to look at myself. But this time, I've got a second person with me. This is my friend Rebecca. She runs her own YouTube channel. Well, why don't you kind of describe what that is?
I have a lifestyle, whatever, beauty channel, and I talk about makeup, fashion, a lot of thrift shopping, and vlogging my life a little bit, not too much. But yeah, it's fun.
So I'll link her channel in the description below, but if you watch her channel, what you might not know about her is that she's, like myself, a big horror movie fan. So we decided we wanted to review some current horror movie together. And the one we ended up deciding on was
Quite a movie.
Mercy Black. What we're going to do with this video is we're going to review this basically in two parts. The first part's going to be just our general thoughts. It'll be spoiler free, as much as we can make it. And then the second half of the video is where we just tear into this thing and see what comes out of our mouths. Yeah.
It's on Netflix if you want to watch it. It might be interesting for you to watch it and then watch this. Just so you have an idea of what you're getting into.
So, Mercy Black is the story of Marina, who's a woman who's just been released from a mental hospital where she was confined after doing something horrible as a child in service of the mysterious Mercy Black. Upon her release, having been thoroughly convinced that Mercy Black is not real, she returns to her hometown to live with her sister and her sister's child. But as is ever the case in horror movies, the past is never really past, and the horrors she bore witness to and inflicted as a child seem to creep back into her life, and the mysterious Mercy Black, real or no, gains power over her and those she loves most. Well, before we spoil anything, let's just kind of give our general impressions of the movie. Why don't you kind of say what you thought of it generally?
Alright. I liked this movie at first, and it progressively bothered me a little more and got a little worse as it went on. But I think overall, it was a fun movie. If you like jump scares, watch this movie. I don't know who likes jump scares. They frustrate me, but it was really a fun, just silly movie that's on Netflix. But I would not pay to go see this movie. Yeah, it had good points. It had the sound design was very well done. I think I liked the sound in this movie. Some of the cinematography was really interesting too. Those are the things that I personally really like to pay attention to. But the plot, wow, that's all I can say.
That was more or less my reaction to the movie.
Yeah.
It started off, and I was pretty into it.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good movie.
Yeah. It has an interesting, the first shot's kind of this drone shot over 3 kids just walking into a forest, and it does the whole horror movie children singing creepy nursery rhyme thing. Yeah. But aside from the fact that it was a little bit generic, it looked interesting.
Yeah. Just
and
not.
Well, and then I think as it goes on, it loses a lot of that. It just kind of, the movie looks nice throughout, but it just kind of loses really any sense of inventiveness. And I think ultimately it gets kind of stuck between its aspirations of being this this examination of grief and guilt and trauma, and what it takes to believe in something and whether belief can be harmful. It sets those things up as something they're going to explore, and then it fills its runtime with stupid jump scares that don't make any sense.
Yeah, and just cheesy horror movie. Wow.
Yeah, which is fine for picking a movie randomly on Netflix, watching it on Saturday night with friends, but the movie's kind of stuck between these two things. Yeah,
it has the potential to be better than it was. I feel like it lost some of what it could have been, I think.
So then we're just going to jump right into spoilers then. So really, if you haven't seen the movie and think you might ever, stop watching and then come back.
Yeah. because you're gonna want to talk to us about this.
I guess we can jump right into the twist, maybe. Like,
okay.
That's since that kind of came up for us a lot when we were talking about this. So I guess like my big question with the twist is like, do you think it worked as a twist?
Yes and no. So he mentioned that there were 3 girls at the beginning of this movie that we see kind of humming and, you know, auditioning to be Freddy Krueger's little jump rope girls, basically. They're walking through the woods, and throughout this movie it kind of pieces together that 2 girls attacked another girl and stabbed her, cut off her finger, and it appears that she's dead. They do a very good job of implying that she killed this person without ever saying that they killed her. There's this creepy librarian the whole movie.
World's worst librarian.
Worst librarian, who's just kind of there once or twice, and it turns out we get this reveal that she's missing a finger, and so she's the little girl who was attacked at the beginning of the movie and didn't ever actually die. And I thought that was a really cool twist, because that's where it pulled into where I was thinking about, this is just all like in their heads. It's not real, it's not a supernatural element to this movie, and I thought if they continued it in that way, that would have been interesting to me. I mean, I feel like they needed to pick one or the other. This movie is so obscure, you don't know if it's supernatural or if it's this crazy lady. And I feel like it should have been one or the other, and if she had been the thing causing all of this and it was just really created in her mind, cool plot twist, works well. But because they still add the supernatural elements later, no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with the movie generally, is that like I didn't see the plot twist coming, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know the movie was going to go here. But because it ends, like ambiguity can be good, but because of the way this movie ends, the ambiguity that it ends with, it kind of ends up not saying anything.
Yeah, I mean, some things can end ambiguous, but you still have a sense. You're either one or the other. You're either like, oh yeah, it's definitely this supernatural element and this Mercy Black is real, or you would end it and be like, oh, it's all in everyone's heads. You have no idea when this movie's over if it's one or the other.
Even if sometimes with movies, even if you don't quite know which side you fall on, like I guess something like Inception would be a good example of that, because like the fact that the spinning top at the very end, spoilers for Inception, go see it. If like with that, the fact that it's ambiguous is saying something about the way we perceive reality, and like the very fact that there is ambiguity is making a point. With this movie, the fact that it's ambiguous means that it kind of isn't really making any point at all. It's just,
maybe it's real, maybe it's not.
Yeah, I think on the way to not saying anything, and it kind of what sets this movie up to not say anything, are all the generic elements of horror movies, as like it's almost feeling like it's obligated to do that.
Yeah, there are a lot of elements in this movie that are, I typed down in my notes like 100 times. They had the creaky doors opening and closing cliches, the jump scares, the like bathtub, the like cat claw tub kind of cliches. There was so much of every horror movie cliche in this movie, when it felt like it started a lot smarter than that, and you were thinking that maybe this was gonna do something where it didn't need that. And yeah, I just feel like there could have been so many better ways of scaring you without it just being super obvious. One of my favorite non-jump scares in a movie ever is in The Ring, when she's sitting in the living room of that guy's, Samara's father's house, and she's like putting the tape in, and it just like flashes with lightning, and he's just standing behind her.
Oh yeah.
There's no loud noise, there's no nothing, you just subtly see him. And similar in the new It movie, the first part 1, spoilers, but it's not really, when the kid's in the library and you see the woman in the background just staring directly at him for a really long time, but she's out of focus, it's never even addressed. Those are the kind of scares I feel like they could have done a lot of in this movie. There was a lot of potential for that, and they didn't do anything like that, and I was really bummed, because it felt like it could have been, when it started, one of those really smart, scary movies. Yeah. But instead it just goes for cheap jump scares.
It almost seemed like they were worried you'd fall asleep in the first 10 minutes, so they included like right in a row almost, a bunch of stupid jump scares, most of them involving this kid.
That stupid freaking kid. He was so annoying. He just kept jump scaring her. Like, why would he reach out and grab her? It honestly would have been so much cooler, especially because, like I said, the cinematography was really interesting at first. There's this whole shot of her leaving the mental institution, and it's completely shot in the rear view, or no, the side mirror of the car, and you just see her reflection, and it's just this really beautiful, interesting shot. We both commented on it, I think, in our notes, and it was very interesting. And so they were like playing around with the like visuals and the reflections. Some type of shot where she's just looking through her clothes, and then we see him standing in the back of her closet, but she doesn't yet, kind of thing. So much creepier than a jump scare.
Yeah.
And then her maybe realizing, and she has a jump scare on her own because she like sees her nephew. Could have been so much more effective, like that kind of thing, you know, just a shot where we see the kid, she doesn't, and it's like super weird in the closet thing. Just, there are so many ways I feel like that could have been done. Yeah. But instead it's just like, boom.
Yeah, and they have the big soundtrack.
Yeah, just a giant noise.
Yeah.
Those are the only part of like, really the sound design that I didn't like. Well, to be fair, I liked the sound design because it made me not like it.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they did a really good job of making you feel uncomfortable because it got so freaking loud. But I also wanted to like, I was covering my ears. I was like, this is so loud, and like the bass on the TV, I was like, oh, I hate this. But it was well done because it really gave you like a tense, like unnerving feeling where you're just like, ooh.
Yeah, they made certain things like much louder than they should have been, which is like the garden shears, like they always made the snip of that really loud, which makes sense because it's her like probably the most traumatic part of that memory for her. Yeah. Is the finger thing. She keeps coming back to it.
Chop. Ouch. Yeah, let's get into Bryce. Bryce is the son. I don't think
yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Bryce is the sister's son, so it's the nephew of the main character. Yeah. So Bryce starts out as this cute little kid, and he starts.
God, he's so cute.
Yeah, he's really adorable. He starts to generate this kind of close relationship with Marina, the main character, which is really good for Marina because she doesn't seem super close with her sister, and definitely isn't super close with anyone else save her therapist. Yeah. And then Bryce, as the movie goes on, starts learning about Mercy Black, starts looking up Mercy Black on the internet, and Mercy Black's become this Slender Man-like figure. And by the end, he is trying to kill people for Mercy Black. And it almost seems like a few scenes he's like starting to get interested in Mercy Black, maybe he's starting to go a dark route, suddenly hard left into Murderville. Like
he seems scared too.
Yeah.
He's like afraid of Mercy Black, but then all of a sudden he's like besties with Mercy Black, and you're like, okay.
It's super bizarre, and they don't give you... I think that's another thing that helps this movie to not say anything, is the fact that it gives you so little context for what happens to Bryce.
I want to know what people's reactions are to this video if they've never seen this.
Like, what the hell movie is this? It's Bryce just exists in this kind of, I don't know what to call it except like a Game of Thrones season 8 world where people
nothing makes sense.
Nothing makes sense. People just like
180
become. I really hesitate to use the word crazy because it has all these awful associations with it, but in this movie, that's what it is. Yeah.
I want to talk about one thing that I liked about this movie that a lot of horror movies don't usually do well is the sister. Horror movies tend to love having characters think something is wrong and other characters not believing them. It's infuriating. It's so frustrating. And this movie does not do that. The sister, who is not the main character, so she has this boyfriend named Will, and he is kind of obsessed with the whole Mercy Black story, and he's a little like much. He's kind of a D-bag. But at one point he comes to talk to Marina, the main character, about wanting to write a story about her life and stuff, and then he like creepily touches her leg, and it's just not appropriate, and she's holding this sander and she like sands his hand, and it's awesome. And basically her sister shows up in the middle of all of this And he's like, you're crazy, like, B sister, you know, just scraped my hand, she's a psycho, blah, blah, blah. And the sister immediately like kicks him out and is like, are you okay? And just like immediately believes her sister. There's no like stupid dramatic, what are you doing with my boyfriend? Or like, what are you talking about? She just fully believes her sister. And I just think that is so necessary in these movies. So I thought that was a really cool aspect of this movie.
Oh yeah, the sister was by far my favorite character.
Yeah, she just was doing what you expect.
Yeah. Part of the fact that I like the sister so much ended up making me uncomfortable at the end, because the movie, as I started to think about it, seems to be kind of blaming her for what happens to her son.
What do you mean?
So, a lot of this movie obviously talks about belief. Like that must be the most said word in this movie after words like a and the.
Yeah.
So one of the things, it seems, one of the only things that can explain what Bryce ultimately does is that he's really willing to give into these narratives. Like, Mercy Black will take my pain away.
Yeah.
The reason he is susceptible to that, it seems, is because the sister is very willing to feed him narratives. His father is on a secret mission with NASA.
Yeah.
His sister is, his aunt rather, is
in art school.
Yeah, in art school in England. So she kind of feeds him these lies. That was a little uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Like that she bears a lot of the blame for that ultimately.
Yeah, which it's not, obviously.
No, it's not. It shouldn't be. So this is a movie that very often tries to bring internet culture into, like, kind of, sort of in the periphery of everything that's going around. So Mercy Black is this Slender Man-like figure who people either talk about as this kind of folk legend or actually have some level of belief in.
Yeah.
And then learning at the end that it's actually this librarian who's been kind of manipulating Bryce to believe these things all along. It kind of lessens the impact about anything it might be saying about internet belief and like what belief looks like in an age when we're all connected to these things. And then it's like, oh no, actually
he's just been influenced this whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, like so many parts of this movie, if they had just stuck with one overarching kind of like thread through it, they could have connected it well together. Even a little more with the librarian. Like, if you're gonna show that she's this evil influence, push it a little more. Maybe show her teaching him about something and we see the finger, and that's not like a huge plot twist until that moment, and it's a little earlier in the movie, and then this whole time we're like, this woman is influencing this little kid.
Yeah.
Do that. Or don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, just have another person be the fingerless lady later. Like, I mean, same with the therapist. She's literally just there to die. And to give a little bit of exposition to the main character, like right at the end when she shows up and says so-and-so's back, like the fingerless girl is back and stuff. We already knew that as viewers, the main character didn't, but also could have been given away in a totally different like scenario where you know, Marina could have figured it out somehow. She could have just seen that she didn't have a finger. Like, she could have put that together without the therapist having to come back and be like, she's back, blah, blah. And then like 10 seconds later just gets her throat slit for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, she's genuinely just there for another like body count in this movie, I feel like. It's just a gruesome death to be like, oh wow, somebody died.
It kind of messes up some of Marina's character arc too, I think. Because she... about halfway through the movie, she decides that what she really wants is to be believed. Like, she gets angry at her sister for not believing her about, or at least completely discounting the possibility that Mercy Black might be real. She, when the therapist finally comes in at the climax of the movie, she says to the therapist something like, for once will you believe me, and gets the therapist to follow her to go try to save Bryce from the fingerless lady.
He's been kidnapped at this point.
Yeah. I don't know. Stuff happens, and basically the Marina's saying like, follow me and help me out. Believe me for once.
Yep.
And that ends up being a horrible idea, believing her and following her.
You just die.
Yeah, and that's what happens to kind of everyone in the movie. So actually, like, believing her is a horrible thing. You shouldn't.
Oh, we didn't talk about Rebecca and her mother.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my god. So at one point in the movie, Rebecca is the is Marina's friend when they were little, and Rebecca seems to have been the one who persuaded Marina to kill,
or attempt to kill.
Yeah, this
she's the
their
third
friend.
little girl, basically.
Yeah, and Rebecca has not dealt with it well. She went in a mental institution like Marina, but was released very early and seems for the most part to be entirely catatonic.
Yes.
And her mother is the best character in this movie. Like, the first scene that she's in, Marina like goes to Rebecca and the mother's house and knocks on their door, and the mother like opens the door and slides her face out, and I think they were trying to make it like this creepy horror movie thing, but it looks so silly.
That mother is like the horror movie version of Regina George's mom in Mean Girls.
Yes.
You said something at the beginning, I don't remember.
I don't remember what I said at any point in this.
Something
I'll definitely have to be severe with editing.
We've been filming for over an hour on this one.
Jesus. Okay.
We should wrap it up.
Yeah, so here, why don't you go first? Why don't you give your final thoughts?
Okay. If you want to watch a silly, scary movie with your friends or your significant others, and you just want to have a silly, goofy night to laugh at a silly, scary movie, watch it. If you're like those people that just get so scared so easily, you'll probably find this terrifying, so definitely watch it. But yeah, I think it's worth watching. I wouldn't tell people to not watch it, especially because it's on Netflix for just like a fun, like I said, and you've said, a night with your friends. You just want to watch a silly, scary movie. It's decent enough, but it's not good. I did not really overall enjoy it. I feel like by the end of it, I was like, okay, I'll never watch this again. It's not a repeat movie. It's not something I'm gonna tell my friends like, oh, we should all watch this movie. Yeah. I don't think I could get through it a second time. It's just, it's kind of one of those movies that you watch it once and then you don't want to ever watch it again. Would I like a sequel so I know what the hell happened? Yes. Do I think I'll get one? No. So yeah. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, it's just really similar to those. It's a competently made, okay horror movie. The issue with it is just it frames itself as being much more important and insightful than it ever ends up being.
Yeah.
It has nice visuals, but after a little while, it never really uses them in any significant way to push us to think more deeply about the themes its characters keep repeating over and over again. I think back to something like the most recent Halloween movie, which, while not a great film, at least like it dealt with trauma by like kind of lacing every part of the film with like this deep fog, and it fed into what the movie was trying to say in a way that this movie just kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's a movie that its own downfall is that it promises more than it is ever able to deliver. And so while it kind of works as that Saturday night watch it with friends movie, it sets itself up as something more, and so it gets caught between those two approaches and really stifles itself by doing so, I think.
Yeah. Quick game. Create a tagline. Mercy Black, blank.
Mercy Black, this time it's personal. Back in Black.
My tagline is, Mercy Black. It could be better.
I think that's the best summation
I do too.
of our thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Mercy Black.
Meh. It could be better. That's perfect.
Alright, well, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'll hopefully soon have something a bit more like the other two videos I've created, but I'm hoping to also kind of do some more informal reviews like this, hopefully with Rebecca here in the near future.
Hopefully you enjoyed this dumpster fire of a video and you've made it all the way through this 2.5 hour long video.
It'll be much easier for you to watch than it will be for me to edit.
Yes.
So like I said, I'm going to put Rebecca's channel in the description, so you should go check that out. And
we filmed a video over there.
And we did film a video over there. We did a thing I don't normally do, so if you want to see what that is,
yes,
go look at her channel and find that. So anyways, that's
that's it.
I think that's all from us. So thanks again for watching. And
subscribe to Sean's channel.
Yeah, likey, subscribe-y, bell icon-y,
Do the bell, whatever
thing that people tell you to do. And until next time, be well, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Wow.